My name is Becky. I'm a compulsive eater and a bulimic. Hey, everybody. Every day I get to write down, call in, and commit 3 meals a day with nothing in between from our gray sheet to my sponsor. I weigh and measure under all conditions, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And my abstinence date in gray sheet is December 5th, 2004. But my first abstinent meal was lunch on December 4th, 2004, because we don't have to wait. And I say that every time because, I know before I came to gray sheet, I was always looking for the perfect start, which was usually on a Monday or right after a holiday or when some big project was due or whatever. I always had a deadline in the future, and there's no time like the present. I'll say this. Um, all times on a continuum were equally inconvenient to get abstinent and weigh and measure my food. And on that same continuum, that also means that all times are equally convenient. It's the same level of convenience all the time. And so why not start now? And, it was actually getting off cigarettes way back when. So I'm just going to give a little bit of information. I'm supposed to tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what I'm like now. And, I'm that person the big book talks about. I've got a spiritual malady. And I was always looking for something to fill it. The big book talks about how fundamentally we are designed as human beings with a desire to worship. Unfortunately, I have worshiped the wrong things the vast majority of my life. I've worshiped food, I've worshiped money, I've worshiped sex, cigarettes, you name it. If I could put it in my body or try to distract myself, that's what I was using. And, for me, food's my number one. I'm just going to share a couple of dates with you. I'll put them in order of letting go. So my last cigarette, I was a chain smoker, a pack and a half to 2.5 packs a day. Um, my last cigarette that I had, I don't claim to be an ex-smoker, but the last cigarette that I had was on January 30th, 2001 at 6 p.m. Pacific. God did that. I didn't pick that date, by the way. The person I was talking to on the phone said, "That's your last cigarette." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. I've got a whole bunch of Pall Mall non-filtered right here in front of me, just waiting to be smoked up." And I thought, every time I try to choose my date, I end up smoking again. So I'm like, maybe I just surrender it and let someone else do the thinking. And God lifted that from me. And then I came into Gray Sheet. Like I said, December 4th, 2004 was a Saturday morning meeting in Los Angeles. At that point, I had 90 days in CEA How, but I was frantically seeking someone in that fellowship, and maybe my circle was small, but no one could tell me that they weighed and measured without exception. And I knew that I would die if I tried to estimate something. So I walked into my first gray sheet meeting, live gray sheet meeting on my 90th day of CEA How abstinence after a major relapse. And, I walked in. It was not the same level of warm and fuzzy I got in the CEA How rooms, although I was pretty popular in CEA How. I was quite the cheerleader. And, but someone told me, and, hold on to this. She said, "You don't have to like me for me to save your life, and I don't have to like you for you to save mine." So I'm in Gray Sheet to be abstinent and to carry the message of Gray Sheet abstinence. And when we love people, it doesn't mean we approve of what we're doing. It doesn't mean that we condone them doing things. Loving them means being compassionate and telling the truth in an edifying, loving way to help that person grow, to help that person be healthy. And God, so much has changed. So anyway, and the last thing is Gracie Got Me Sober. So nowhere on the Gray Sheet does it say don't take mind-altering drugs or don't take diet pills or all this stuff, and Gray Sheet got me sober. So I was working the steps with another member of Gray Sheet, and doing the steps, she's like, "You need to go to another fellowship in addition to this one." So I tried out Pills Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all very great fellowships, and ended up going to AA. My desire to not drink, because I'll tell you what, for me, alcohol and food, they go together. So anyway, I got lots of dates, and but my gray sheet date's the biggest because if I lose my abstinence, everything else is out the window. So, you know, when I was a kid, um, thin, I guess, at the age of 5, picture of me with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, you know, I looked like normal,
That's
but I
five,
started,
Becky.
thank you. That's just how I listen to that. See, I'm not doing so great. So anyway, I started struggling with food when I was a kid, and I was always the biggest kid. I had my cheerleading uniform made for me. I had my because I was a very active fat kid. I was the fattest kid in all the pictures. The fattest kid in the cheerleading picture, the choir picture, the Girl Scout picture. What else? The dance class picture, dance recital, tap, jazz, ballet. I was an active fat kid, and I always had the biggest tutu. You know what I mean? And you know, today almost all the kids are fat, but they weren't back in the 70s. I'm 53 years of age, and they were not fat back then. I was highly unusual. And anyway, I learned the thing about calories in and calories out. I went on my first diet, Weight Watchers diet, at the age of 12. And I found out that when you're really focused on the food and dieting, you don't have to think about a lot of other things. And, you know, I think that that just kind of set the tone for me. This disease can be a great distraction from dealing with the reality of life, the reality of relationships, the reality of my lack of spirituality, and just, you know, staying real focused on my ego and the flesh, you know. And so anyway, I fought the food. And oh, by the way, I was molested when I was a kid, and everybody doesn't react the same way to sexual molestation I did, but I kept everybody at a distance. And I used the food, and I figured as long as I keep on eating, I'm not going to have to deal with any of that stuff. So I'll just show you a little picture. Like, you guys can kind of see what I look like now. You know, I mean, I'm not super thin, but I'm not heavy either. And I'm quite pleased. And this was me, not at my top weight by any stretch. This was me after a short period of CEA How abstinence. I was feeling pretty good, you know, and I probably had earrings on. I was dressed up, but so my highest weight was that was recorded was 193 and a half, which isn't huge numbers, but I'll tell you what, I have felt thinner at 170 weighing and measuring my food than I did at 125 binging and purging. And I was in Overeaters Anonymous earliest at the age of 18. And, you know, I struggled with food from then on. I didn't have any guilt-free eating until after I got to, I think, CA How. I had about a year of abstinence where I didn't eat the grains. And I didn't realize that grains were a problem, but I must have had a suspicion because I was like, I don't want to eat those. I was scared, rightfully so. And everyone's trying to tell me, well, they're healthy for you. Well, there's a lot of things that this world will tell you are healthy for you, but they will kill you. And we can talk about that elsewhere. That's an outside issue. But anyway, I struggled for a lot of years trying to do the impossible, which is weigh and measure starches and carbohydrates. Just thinking I had an abominable lack of willpower and morality. And I was working the steps like you wouldn't believe. I was doing questions and reading and writing and praying and answering. But bottom line is, a man's brain must be cleared before he is approached. My brain was never cleared, and I never knew it was necessary to have my brain be cleared. I'm going to tell you right now, and this is the old one, okay? This isn't the one with the little gray sheet copyright. This is the old one. I've got like 3 or 4 of these. This is what clears the brain. This is what clears the brain to make it possible to weigh and measure the food. And then to go on to work the steps. So I finally I did a Google. Sometimes bad publicity is good publicity. And I'd heard people badmouth Gray Sheet. If you like something, they take it away, they said. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. I want to have my, you know what, need it too. And I want to pick and choose, and I want to do stuff when I go out in public and when I go to family gatherings, just a little bit. I'll just moderate, only eat when you're hungry. But I've got the appetite of a linebacker, a fat one who has a heart attack at the age of 40. And so anyway, I did not want to do this thing. I'd heard about it in the late 80s, early 90s, didn't want to do it. And, you know, I found CA How, which was a ray of sunshine because they do weigh and measure their food, not without exception, but they do. And it helped me learn a little bit about what structure looks like. But as soon as I took those grains in my body, I was set off on a major, and it was a weighed and measured grain. It was like 1 ounce, I think, like it at a CEA How retreat. Nan was probably there. I'm sorry. And anyway, I was off and running. It took about 6 months for the loss to really show up on my body, but man, I was obsessed between meals. I'm not obsessed between meals today. Today I've got space. Today it's like, holy crap, it's been 8 hours. I need to eat lunch. So amazing, right? Miraculous. And so anyway, I was off and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I remember what someone say: if you like something, they take it away. And then, but someone else had said, yeah, but they're thin.
That's 10, Becky.
Thank you, Miss Nan. So I was desperate. I was at that retreat. I found somebody who knew somebody who was friends with somebody in Gray Sheet. And I asked this one woman to be my sponsor there. That was for that 90 days I talked about before I walked into Gray Sheet, because I knew that maybe I'd get it by osmosis or something. Well, she's friends with someone who does it without exception. Maybe she'll pass that along to me. And, she kind of had that vibe. But I started calling. Around, couldn't find it. And finally, what I did is they did have Google and Yahoo, and I found the Gray Net Yahoo groups, and I got on that email chain, and I found the phone bridge and started dialing in, and I heard the message loud and clear. What I was interested in was people who stay abstinent 30, 40 years, day in, day out, death, surgery, divorce, birth, dismemberment, whatever, you name it, people who do it no matter what, to show that it's even possible. Because anywhere else I ever went, it was never possible. They always found a reason. We always find a reason. That's the ism. That's my flesh taking charge. I'm going to control the situation. I'm going to eat, by golly. And so anyways, I was listening on the phone bridge, and 89th day, I called the hotline, and a lady there, she's still abstinent, very strong force in the LA community, which is where I got abstinent, 3rd and Fairfax at the farmer's market. And although the meeting wasn't at that place at that time, but she answered, and she told me about it, and she said, okay, see you there. Click. She hung up. I wasn't going to drive into downtown LA, and I'm like, well, I guess maybe did I commit to showing up? I don't know. So I drove, I made the drive, and I found my home. I got abstinent the next day on the Gray Sheet, got a sponsor, and it has been the most blessed thing I've ever done. And it's allowed me to work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous for the first time, absolutely like stark raving sober and abstinent, which I could never do before. And my food has changed over the years. My need for sleep has changed over the years. I used to have the 3 raws every single day. Now it's a treat. And if I do, sometimes I pick really tiny ones. But I had to be stuffed to the gills. It had to be like Thanksgiving fetal position on the couch after every meal for me to not be afraid of breaking my abstinence. And that's how it was for like the first 5 years. And I slept all weekend, every weekend, other than meetings, grocery shopping, and fixing my food. That's what it took for me. I have a lot more energy now. I have a social life now. I actually got married in Gray Sheet. I've done all the dating in Gray Sheet. I've gone cross country on Gray Sheet. I always take my next 3 meals on the plane. I weigh a measure in front of CEOs. I don't care. And frankly, nowadays, most people are trying to get off all that stuff. It's deadly to everybody, not just compulsive eaters. It's deadly. It has no redeeming nutritional value. And I'm really grateful for the Gray Sheet, because I've been able to work the steps, and I'm kind of excited. I'm getting ready I'm going through the big book again with my sponsor, and we're starting on the preface and the forewords. We're reading our way through doing the big book, and we're going to work the steps again. And this time, not on the food or the alcohol or all the other substances, but on managing my reaction to life, because my life is unmanageable, which means my emotions are unmanageable by me. And I love Gray Sheet. I love God. God loves me. And frankly, I'm grateful to be a compulsive eater. I'm grateful for everything that appears to be bad that happened to me that caused me to cry out to God, because so many people are walking around today trying to get filled up with something, whether it's shopping or sex or nails, prestige, ambition. They're trying to fill up on all this empty stuff that's not going to be a darn thing on my deathbed. You know what I'm going to care about? Did I spend time with my family? Did I love them? Did I love other people? Did I love God? Have I got myself right with God? Have I cleaned up myself? Have I made amends? Have I made restitution for harms done? That's what's going to matter. So anyway, all this to say is here I am 53 and my brain feels a lot younger but wiser. I kind of wish I had all the stuff in my brain and all this experience back in my 20s. But they do say youth is wasted on the young, and on this person it definitely kind of was, but thankfully my body took all the punishment I dished out and I'm here. I'm so grateful that God kept me alive long enough, because there were periods in my life where I was so angry at having been born. Thank you, Nan. And I just thought, why all the suffering? And I'm like, man, because there's a lot in me that needs to be fixed, and the suffering helps bring me to that point. Straight up. That's my experience. Anyway, I love you all. I do this no matter what. And I like to finish with this because I have 3 meals coming. Nan knows. She knows. Anyway, I love you all no matter what.